Hey you, yes you, see all these wonderful people right here? They are my Patreons. With the support I get from them, I can afford to do my passion as a career and bring you guys weekly videos. Want to join them? For just $1 a month, you can get videos 24 hours before anyone else. And for even higher tiers, you can get Polaroids, letters, and mystery boxes from me to you. And even Fursuit parts, not to mention my eternal thanks. So what are you waiting for? Become a Patreon today via the link in the description. Thanks again, enjoy the video. Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Fursuit head tutorial. It's just a canine, nothing fancy this round because the last Fursuit head tutorial just recently hit 1 million views. That's crazy. So obviously it means I have to make another one and capitalize on it yet again. My making style since then, that was a couple of years ago now, has changed and developed a whole lot. So I'm really excited to share with you guys all the new techniques I've learned in that time frame. So get keen, get out there, let's do this. Let's do a quick list of the tools and materials you will need for this part of the project. Now this is just for the foam base and not for the rest of the head. So for tools we will need scissors, a Sharpie, and a hot glue gun with glue sticks. I prefer using high temp as low temp tends to cool too quickly for my liking. The next tool is optional but recommended, but a bread cutter or electric knife to help remove large chunks of foam and carve your head base faster. I get mine from my local hardware store, about $30, not too expensive. And now for the materials. A sheet of 2-inch thick project foam or upholstery foam to create your head base out of. The amount is up to you, but I'd recommend at least a good square meter of the stuff. An EVA foam mat, people use these for kids' playrooms. I only use one for this project, but they often come in packs of 4. And a bucket head base. I have a tutorial already made for this, you can find it up in the little eye in the corner of the video. And your Fursuit eye blanks, whether they be pre-bought from a maker, pre-made yourself, or 3D printed, this tutorial calls for perfectly round eyes, and you'll see why in the next few videos. I've seen people use white paint bowls for this too. I will be selling the specific blanks I use for this on my website after this video goes live. Now I'll explain each of the shapes of the pieces that I used for this head carve. The exact pattern will be available for purchase on my website, but you are welcome to and encouraged to learn how to make your own. Okay, the first piece we are going to work on is our muzzle piece. It kind of looks like this. I'll show you how I make it. So essentially, I grab a piece of paper and prop Steve-O up here. I stick it on the side, and essentially I'm going to be drawing out what I want it to look like from the side. That, and I cut 3 out of, I think this is 2-inch foam. So I cut 3 of them out and I'm going to glue them together in a big stack. You generally want it to start where the split in your bucket head is, and you want it to end where this line is, so you have space to put your bottom jaw on. The next piece I want to talk about is the bottom jaw piece. It looks like this, and basically the way I kind of measure it is by lining these 2 up. Kind of want it to sit not so far forward because it's going to look like it has an overbite, but we want it to kind of line up and sit underneath it like that. This will be thinned down as we carve, but I just cut it out of 1-inch foam so I have lots of space to work with. The next bits we're talking about is the cheek pieces. They look like this, and this bit that sits on top of that. Yours might look different. Again, Fursuit making is not an exact art, so you can make it however you want, but this is how I do mine. So essentially this is where the smile is going to be, so it kind of makes the Fursuit look like it actually has a smile, like it's going ee. You can have it pointing downwards if you like to be a suit. I tend to use this to express subtle emotion. More intense emotion, you'd use eyebrows. So that's going to connect to, this is going to connect to our upper jaw, and this is going to connect to the bottom jaw to extend the mouth further into the head. And this is just going to add a little bit of volume to our cheeks, and you'll see how I add even more volume later on. You'll recognize this piece from my previous tutorials, the funny shaped T. And I've got eyebrow pieces as well, which will sit on like that. This eyebrow piece, I've kept it relatively thick and large this time to give the brow a little bit more definition than I usually would. That's those pieces. This is where the eye sits, this is where the muzzle starts, this is where it connects to the cheek. You're essentially just drafting a big T on your head. You'll get the hang of it as you practice a bit more, but that's how I draft that piece. And the eyebrow's just as big as you like, and they're bean shaped. Jelly bean. We'll talk about the ears. I don't have the EVA foam bit cut out, but we've got ear shapes. Now, the difference between these ears and triangle ears is that it doesn't have this curve. So what this curve does is it makes sure it sits upright on our head. If it was flat at a triangle, you stick it on a stick out like that, which is not what we want. So you want to make sure that they have this curve, and we will be trimming it back and trimming it down to make sure it perfectly fits on our head. Now we also have this triangular bit there's going to be an EVA foam between this bit and this bit, but this is going to be stuck on like that, and it's going to be giving our ear a little bit of curve, a little bit of shape, and we can carve this down and make it look smooth. I think that's pretty much all of the pieces. So that's how I draft them. That's all the pieces you should have, besides one more EVA foam bit, which I'll cut out in a hot sec. Let's crack on. Now we get to the assembly and carving phase. First, I start by stacking the muzzle pieces on top of one another and gluing them together with hot glue. I then start by carving down the muzzle to the shape I want. The perceptive eyes among you may notice I have drawn a front and side view of roughly the shape I want as a guide. This can help if you have a shape in mind. This is probably the piece of the head I spend the most time on, as it can make or break a suit in my opinion. Lots of tiny snips from sharp scissors will help you get it as smooth as you'd like. You'll see me talk at the camera a lot during this tutorial series, and that's because this video will be doubling as homework walkthroughs for an up-and-coming project I've been working on, which is a fursuit making summer school, so keep an eye out for that. Patreons will be getting a heavily discounted trial version before the course is publicly available, so if you're interested, consider checking it out. Link will be down below. I will be doing an in-detail tutorial on how to make your own pattern for your head bases after this next series of tutorials are out, so do keep an eye out for that. I use a symmetry line to help me judge whether my carve is symmetrical or not, and draw out where I want the inside of my mouth to be. I use that to inform my carve for the next little while. I constantly put the muzzle at a distance to check how it's looking. I draw lines to match up the back of the muzzle with the mouth hole of my bucket head base. I will be carving this part out to make room for the wearer's nose. I carve out the inside of the mouth by making snips along the lines I've drawn and working on removing the foam from the inside. You want this to have enough space for the nose of the wearer, as well as enough space for air to flow in the mouth. This step is crucial for good ventilation in your suit. Think about the curve you make and how it will let air in, whilst keeping the inside of the mouth as smooth as you can and appealing to the eye. I carve a little bit in on each side where the muzzle will join the bucket head. I find it gives the muzzle a bit of a chubbier look. Apply glue to the back of the muzzle and allow to cool for a short while, then press into the bucket head base and allow to dry completely before releasing pressure. Moving on to our bottom jaw piece, we will be taking about 1/3 of its thickness off and working to round out the bottom jaw piece. I don't dig a channel for the inside of the mouth anymore, but you can if you'd like. Glue onto your head by applying glue, waiting for it to go tacky, and press into the head to let dry completely. Next, onto those cheek pieces, with each piece facing a different way as if mirrored. Glue on your top cheek piece to the bottom piece, positioning it a bit higher than halfway, with the point of that new piece pointing along the top split in the bottom piece. I draw this line on the bottom split to show where I'll be having a large slope to meet my bottom jaw pieces. This will help with the overall anatomy look of the suit. I carve out that section and begin smoothing out the cheek pieces. This is probably the most labor intensive part of this carve, as there is a lot to take off. And remember that each piece is flipped. Make sure you do this or else you end up with 2 right pieces or 2 left pieces, like I do a lot sometimes. The thickness of the upper part of your fork will dictate how large your suit's cheekbones are. You can make these cheeks any thickness you like, but try to make them the same shape. Apply glue to the back of the piece once you're satisfied with the shape, allow to get tacky and hold in place on the head until fully set, and repeat with the other side. This piece should touch the upper muzzle under the eye with the top slit and the bottom jaw with the second, and curve around the side of the head where you've marked the location of your eyes. Now we are starting with the brow piece. I attach each eyebrow piece onto the T-piece first, approximately where they would sit. I apply glue to the middle of this part first and then attach it to the head and wait to dry completely. This piece has a bad habit of peeling off if not properly set, so please be patient with it and work in sections, allowing it to dry completely before moving on to the next. I decide I don't like the position of my eyebrows as they impede where the piece needs to end, so I remove them and trim the piece so it touches the top of my cheek piece. I reposition the eyebrow beans as I go to better fit where this base piece ends. Now I trace the shape for the nose. This is just a normal solid nose, but if you want to do a different type, like a pickable nose, you can do it differently, of course. There is no right or wrong way to make your giant fluffy animal costumes. I trace the rough shape and work on carving it out of the foam chunk. I flatten a small part of the muzzle so it can fit better on the head and glue it onto the muzzle. I work on further carving it down until I am satisfied with the shape. Now I begin carving down these brow pieces. I want them to blend into the bucket head base as seamlessly as I can and smooth the eyebrow beans into that base piece too. You'll catch me constantly fixing small things like the position of the nose in this case. If you spot something you think looks off, fix it when you spot it so you can keep improving the overall look of the head. I attach the brow piece to the muzzle with a bit of glue. This bit of glue keeps the muzzle angled further up and gives it kind of a happier, toonier look. I add a small piece between the cheek and muzzle pieces to smooth out the transition between the two. I usually go about this with using a chunk to fill in the connection gaps and carving smooth. The sharper angle between your muzzle and cheek pieces, the more defined your cheeks will look. Shallower angles work well for certain species and looks as well, so play around and see what you like. I'm leaving a relatively large space between the split in the cheek pieces and the muzzle, as this defines the smile of the suit once furred. Now I move on to the ears. I swear the shape of the ears will be the death of me. The curve beneath the earpiece you want to match the curve of the head base. And fursuit making is not an exact art, so getting the shape you want can take a bit of trial and error. Eventually, I settle on a shape and glue our large ear foam pieces to the back of the stiff EVA ones. This will be giving our ears a bit more thickness than the EVA foam alone. When you carve this down, you want to curve it to meet the EVA foam. However, make the top of the ears thinner than the base of the ears. Add those small triangle pieces along the edge of the short side of the ear. This will help give it a bit of shape past just the flatness. Carve this so it blends nicely. I constantly retest the fit of these on the head to see if any of the base of the ear needs to be reshaped for it to sit properly. Now we can finally glue it on the head. You want this to sit just about halfway back on your bucket head. The placement is ultimately up to you, but you'll usually bring it down to meet the cheek for a canine. I do use pins to hold these in place whilst I get a bit picky with their position, but if you do use pins, please remember to remove them. No stabby in your suit. Now I'm grabbing my eyes. These are round 3D printed eyes, but a common substitute is round plastic paint bowls. They don't sell them in Australia, but if I find the link, I'll put it in a pinned comment for you guys. If you guys know where to get them, comment down below and I'll pin your comment. I'm doing some more tidying on the carve, looking at it from many angles to check for symmetry. I'm also adding a sloped strip of foam on the muzzle to help it connect to the brow piece more smoothly. I take my eyes and trace around where I want them to sit, then very aggressively cut a hole for the eyes to go. You're cutting through a lot of foam and glue, so it can take a bit of muscle. You want the eyes to sit in there without having to force it, but not be loose either. A teeny bit of wiggle room is okay. I spend a bit more time cleaning at the base, excuse the dodgy angle. But don't worry, this suit will not look bug-eyed in the end. Now we are going to add a triangle of foam to our cheeks to make the cheek fluff you see in a lot of fursuits. I just make the curvy triangle shape out of my foam and split it in half to create each piece, and then carve it to a point. Then glue it slightly in front of the ear on the side of the cheek. The shape of this can be altered to suit your character. I've seen huge fluffs, ones with multiple points. It's up to you and your imagination. And I think that is the base done. You can make any further alterations to this to suit your own OC, but for the moment, this guy is ready for the next step. please leave any questions you have in reply to the pinned comment, and I may make a video covering the questions after each tutorial section. Thank you for watching part 1 of this fursuit head in a more detailed tutorial series. I will see you guys in the next one, where I will be showing you how to tailor custom lining for your heads to get that clean professional finish you've always craved, as well as installing our eyes and getting our head ready for fur. I'll see you then.